So I got to Belgium on December 22nd. So it was right before Christmas. It was snowy and I'd never been to Europe. I was so excited. And we got out and I was paired with a sister that was serving in Brussels at the time. And she took me around to go contacting. And we went through Grand Place, which is just the main place in Brussels, and I just thought this is the most magical place in the whole world. Like, the Christmas lights were up, like I felt like there were, children singing. I don't know, I just felt like it was in like a Christmas card, these such old buildings. It was just so beautiful and it was so much fun. The flight was rough and I was super tired, but I had the best nap of my entire life before contacting, and so I was just ready and so scared. Right when we first started contacting, the sister spoke pretty good French. I was so impressed, and she was just speaking to so many different kinds of people, and then she suddenly said, "Okay, Sir Clark, now it's your turn." And I thought, oh, wait, like, what do you mean? Like, I don't really speak French. There's no way I can contact anybody. And I remember stopping somebody on this little street, and all I said was, like, bonjour. Like, that's all I said. And then I just kind of stood there and thought, like, okay, what can I say? And nothing came to mind. I felt so dumb. But the other sister with me, she covered for me, and we were able to talk to that person. It was so much fun.
I remember the first day, the flight over there was like over 9 hours, and I didn't sleep at all. I was all excited, talking to people, and we finally arrived. We arrived in the morning time, and some of my first impressions just walking around, as we got out of the airport carrying our bags, we met up with the president and the assistants, and I just remember thinking, oh man, like, what am I doing? This is crazy, because it finally hits you. You finally land, you're like, wow, I'm in another country. And then I remember we had to take the train you land in Schiphol in the airport, and you have to go to Leiden to the mission office. And we were waiting for a train, and I remember my first impression, just looking around, I was like, why is everyone so tall? Why are they so huge? I'm a midget. And it just all that combined with the fact that I couldn't understand what they were saying, just totally intimidated. I was like, oh man. And so we arrive at the office, and they're filling out our papers and everything, and the assistant's like, all right, we're going to take you out and go contacting. And I was like, oh no, please. I'm not ready for this, anything but this. And so they took us in shifts, and I remember I went out with one of them, and, he told me to say something, just a simple contact. And I had, so apprehensive about it, didn't know what to say. I managed to get it out, and then he took over and saved me on somebody we were talking to. But it was a lot the first day. And I remember we went, there was a thing that the mission president did. When new missionaries arrived, we went to get pannenkoeken, which are basically like crepes, but big and thin. And we went to a fancy restaurant for that, and it was really enjoyable. But afterwards, we drove to a windmill to take some pictures, and I was falling asleep. I couldn't stay awake by this point because the jet lag had finally hit in, and I just remember feeling sick. I was like, oh, I wish I need that crepe, that pannenkoeken. But it was a lot the first few days. But then the next day, we met up with my trainer, and it went on from there.
So we left the MTC around 5:30 a.m. and it was dark and it was cold, and we left, got on a plane, and being in an overseas flight, they have the little screen to tell you, where you're at. And well, somewhere over Canada, the screen stopped. It stopped telling us that we were moving. And so for the longest time, we all thought we were still over Canada. And it was completely dark the entire flight. And none of us really knew what time it actually was when we started descending. And it was still pitch black outside, and so we're all really nervous, kind of freaking out. I think there's about 22 of us. And so we're a rather large group, and we are all just like shaking and don't really know where to go. And we all step off the plane, and the very first thing I see is these 3 military men with big, M16s and carrying guns, and they're walking around the airport, and then there's just a spew of languages all over the place, and we all just have no idea where to go, and so we're all just walking and finally make our way and standing there waiting for our luggages when one of the elders turns around and he says, "You guys turn around," and we look, and the president and the APs are just on the other side of the glass just watching us as these greenies trying to figure out where to go and what to do. And so, they welcomed us with warm arms, and we made it to the mission office, and it was honestly just such a blur. Those next couple of days, we were all so very tired and having to go and take, legality pictures and to get all these documents. We all were just so dazed. And but I remember when we got our second mission call, that was going to be our first area and who our trainer was. There was so much excitement in the room to feel that this is it, this is really getting started, and, reading the city and a little bit of the history behind it, and then who your trainer is. I just could not wait for the next morning. And so that next morning when we're sitting there, all of the trainers walked in, and you're supposed to say their name so that they come to you, because they don't know who they're training. And I remember my trainer, she walked in, and we immediately made eye contact, and that was a really special moment. My trainer is someone who I hold dear to my heart. She really took care of me and really helped me get me on my feet. We were all the way up in Amsterdam and in Leiden, and so we had to get on a train, and we traveled for several hours on a train, and by the time we actually got to the city of Antwerp in Belgium, it was around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and we had to go straight to an appointment. So the zone leaders picked us up, and we put all my stuff in their car, and we went straight to the church, and without, really any warning or a heads up, we went straight to a lesson with an investigator. And just from the beginning, there was just Dutch and just going so fast back and forth, and I just had no idea what was going on, and just trying my best to just absorb it and stay awake. And then at the end, he asked me to say the prayer, and the investigator, and I was so very nervous. We all knelt down to say the prayer, and I just remember sitting there for a couple of seconds before I actually said anything, and it was probably one of the shortest prayers I've ever said in my entire life with, my MTC Dutch. But that was a very cool moment to feel like, all right, it'll probably take me a while, but this is it. I am doing what the Lord wants me to do. And, so that was a really big moment, and just really exciting to know that this was ahead of me. And I didn't really know what was ahead of me, but that very first night was the start of a really big adventure. So